Yo. So, state of Florida believes they own your kids. I'll get into it. Hopefully everyone's having a decent day today, wherever you are when you're watching this video. Sorry, I should have had that part figured out. Yeah. So anyway, I was looking into, because I live in Florida now, and, maybe I'll have kids one day, you never know, it's possible. I was looking into homeschooling laws in the state of Florida, and wouldn't you know, it is about as strict as I could have possibly imagined. And it's just crazy. I mean, let's just think about it, right? The default position, according to the state, is, for the lack of a better term, that doesn't work. This might be it. For the lack of a better term, they own our kids. Basically, if we have kids, I say we, meaning like if you live in Florida and you have a kid, and this is the same for a lot of other places in the United States, obviously, but just using Florida as an example, you live in Florida and you have a kid, you can't just say, you know what, I'm going to homeschool my kid and tough noogies. You literally, I mean, I have the website pulled up. I could read over it a little bit, but you literally have to jump through hoops to the point where you might as well be in Nazi Germany. Literally, guys, we have to be a little bit more conscious about how we allow ourselves as individuals to be treated, right? If somebody comes into your house and smacks you in the face and then walks out the front door, you're just going to let that happen? Or you're not going to chase them? You're not going to find out who it was? You're just going to sit there and be like, well, that was weird? No, you're going to do something about it. So the government is a nuisance to everybody, not government services. I don't have a problem with governance, but the government, the centralized authority that basically rapes us and steals from us and tells us that we have to tell them that we're teaching our kids sufficiently enough for their standards. I'm back. Yeah, it's ridiculous, guys. Like, it's ridiculous that we allow it to continue like that. We allow that process to continue in the way that it does. There's a lot of hairy moral issues around kids, around libertarianism or voluntarism and raising children, but it's the same problem with the government, guys, with the state. If your neighbor is beating their kid or something and you want to report them, you know that there's a good chance they could be taken away from that home and the kid could end up in the same kind of environment or worse, and then not even know their biological family, you know what I mean, if they're young, so you always have to worry if your intervention is actually going to be productive, right? So anyway, so going back to the state, they're intervening to the level of, you could lose your kid, they could take your kids away from you, or you could face penalties, financial penalties, jail time, but the most important thing would be losing your kids over failure to comply. As if we owe, as adults, society, that we properly, quote unquote, educate our kids. I was helping a young person with their homework recently, a friend of mine's kid, and I know I have a conspiratorial mindset according to a lot of people, but the content of the assignment was nothing short of propaganda. I mean, it was like kind of a social studies, quote unquote, not social studies, like an earth sciences, geology type of assignment, but it starts out with sort of innocent stuff about, different eras and epochs and blah, 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 but that's all theory, and they do present it as if it's known fact, and this whole tale about the dinosaurs, and this whole tale about some meteor and stuff. This canon of doctrine, like almost biblical, where it's like presented like this is all there is, and if you know this, then you're educated. It's such a farce. So anyway, let's say I have a child and I choose to home educate them. I have to not only document all of the individual lessons and attendances, when we start teaching, when we stop, what materials we use, blah, 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 all that. But on top of all that, I actually have to worry about whether they're going to improve it when I bring it to them in the end. So not that this is a routine thing, but if you're ever audited or when you have your occasional check-ins or whatever the case, you have to present a portfolio of your children's studies. What if I don't want to teach my kid the stuff that you would have taught them in a state school? That's the main, one of the main, I mean, if not the, certainly one of the main reasons why you would homeschool your child, if you disagree with the curriculum. So here I am, I present a portfolio showing my kids learned how to play video games, they learned how to, look at a Bitcoin chart, they learned how to negotiate, they learned how to crack a joke, how to write a joke, they learned how to draw, they learned how to paint, they learned how to play a piano. That may not be sufficient. That may not be sufficient for the state. Oh, where's the American history? Where's the reading and science and social studies? Guess what? It's not hard for a young mind to learn a language that's like glue. So you give them something they're interested in, whether it's books, whether it's music, whatever, they'll learn language as it pertains to what they're doing, and they'll learn it at their pace. When you put someone in a group environment, you're forcing them to either speed up or slow down. Only very rarely is the appropriate pace for the individual having to be this random average that the teacher sort of has to pick, even with the best intentions, to sort of not alienate as many kids as possible. So anyway, homeschooling is a great idea, especially considering the prevalent conditions we have now with statism. You're basically helping your kid not become indoctrinated. You're reducing the class sizes, therefore creating less jobs for teachers, which, sorry teachers, teaching is a great job in a free market if you can earn a living that way. But the way it's basically subsidized by the state, because there's so many basically taxpayer-funded schools, you're not necessarily carrying your weight in the market. I know it's a noble thing to try to teach the young minds, but it's not noble if you actually ended up wasting, so to speak, valuable years of their development when they could be actually learning things that they're passionate about, and they could actually be finding themselves as human beings and not conforming to a system, and it's not your fault as a teacher, but conforming to a system that's very, very, very much larger than themselves. And yes, it's a good lesson to learn, but it's going to be learned, and they don't need to learn it in a public school. They can learn it in the world. They can learn it from their neighbors, their teachers, their parents, their relatives, their friends, in their natural environment. And that's exactly what the state tries to do. That's exactly what centralized government tries to do. People that work for the government, people that believe in government, people that vote, don't think, oh yes, this is what I want, this is why I'm a statist, this is why I vote. They believe that the system is necessary because without it, we wouldn't have these necessary functions. When it's quite the contrary. The necessary functions are necessary, and without them, we would have chaos. But we, as a species, wouldn't let certain levels of disorder occur. If they were occurring, they'd be high priority on a species level to attend to those issues. So maybe the state actors, like the individuals within the government right this moment at different levels of government, don't particularly have any ill intent or wish to, stunt your children's growth or anything. But all it takes is the people that put these systems in place, one or more of the people, could just be a handful of people, knew what they were doing and were smart enough to know that the effect would be toxic and not a beneficial one. But instead of, pulling the plug while they had the chance, or instead of, doing the noble thing and saying, hey, we really shouldn't do this to the people, their basic mentality was, if the people are stupid enough to basically walk right up and hand their kids to us and thank us basically for the free daycare that it is, even though it's not free, it's coming out of their own pockets. Their mentality is probably something effective. If they're dumb enough to go for it, we shouldn't feel bad about taking the money. They clearly aren't able to fend for themselves. They clearly aren't able to educate their own kids. They clearly aren't able to run their own lives. So they clearly do need, a manipulative, coercive, non-accountable, centrally monopolized, authority figure to sort of push them around and tell them what to do, because they need to be like little kids. That's the way the regular people are sort of presenting themselves to the state at this time. If you're Joe Blow or Jane Blow on the street, John T. Democrat or Jane T. Republican, you're more so now than I think ever before. You're feeling a mold where you're predictable. And it's seen in, go to Twitter, go to any online debate on Facebook or Twitter, and you can see people, mostly wrongly, but I'm just saying, people have taken to basically pretending they know their opponent's position on different things, because it could be because of your icon on your Twitter, or it could be because of one thing you said. Oh, I like Chick-fil-A or something, and then someone says, oh, well, you must be a MAGA, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I like the way the food tastes, I don't even know about politics, whatever. But no, we're at a point now in the world where it's so divisive and everybody hates each other, and we're so willing to conform. Like, oh, okay, so I agree with this one issue, so I automatically agree with every other thing that people who agree with this one issue also agree with. That's really risky. That's really dangerous. Then you have the fact that so many issues are actually divided down the middle like that, where the big issue right now, the biggest thing, just to kind of bring this all together, the clickbait was about something to do with Florida, like it's a new story or something. It's not a big deal, whatever, but we do need to stop and think sometimes about what we're actually allowing to happen to ourselves, and like what we're getting ourselves into, or what we're persisting in. Like, whatever the law of inertia is, you know what I mean? Like, if an object is at rest, it tends to stay at rest. If an object is in motion, it tends to stay in motion until friction or other forces act against it to change it into rest, or to change its path or whatever. So if we have the state, if we're voting every 4 years, if we have these laws, if we have this constitution, we just follow it less and less every year, that's all we're going to keep doing. If we one day realize, like we did when we started America, that the old system wasn't working, that we had to try something new. America was known as the Great Experiment at the time. It wasn't known as the Great Permanent Plan. It was an experiment to learn and to test. That's what an experiment is. You learn, you test, you try things, and then you try new things later. You don't keep doing the same experiments over and over and over and over again. You learn from them and then you tweak. We haven't tweaked enough. So the reason we're not tweaking is because regular people are lazy as fuck right now. We are as self-centered as we've ever been as a people. We are so self-centered and egotistical. We just think about me, 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 me. I want to get home as fast as I can. I want all this shit. I want my shit. I want things just the way I want them. I want people to shut up when I want them to shut up. I want them to listen to me when I want them to listen to me. It's just a crazy time now. Maybe it's in my head, but to me, I feel like it's more like this than it's ever been, with the phones, the apps, and I'm a victim to it as well. Anyway. So the way we start changing it, the way we start making the world better, is we realize that simple answers are very often the solution, but it doesn't mean that simple thinking can always protect you. What I'm saying is, going with the crowd only works until the first few hyenas run off the cliff. Then the rest of the bunch are just running off the cliff. So you don't want to be a lemming, you don't want to be a hyena, you want to be a little bit more planned and predictable about what you do and how you do what you do. So I'm just calling you out. If you're watching this video, I'm calling you out individually to think about how you're acting. If if you vote, if you're a statist, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, think about that. Think about it more than you thought about it before. I'm not saying spend your whole life on it, but I'm calling you to think about it more. The things I'm telling you, and if you're not, if you're a quote unquote anarchist or libertarian or voluntarist or something like that, think about your stuff more. Don't do it for fashion. Don't do it to be cool. Don't do it because you think it's gonna get you laid to have an anarchy symbol in your profile or something like that. Hopefully you're doing it because you can't help it. Like, I can't help it. Like, I see stuff going on in the world, and the way the world is, and the way people are in the world, and the way people think, and the way people act, and I could feel hopeless, but I don't, because I know that, you know, I'm the way I am. So there's a reason why some people see the world for what it can be, some people see the world for what it once was, and some people see the world for what it is today. It's healthy to see the world for what it is. It's a gift to be able to see the world for what it will be, and it's a curse to be stuck in the past and to be seeing the world for what it was. And the government is an old piece of technology. It's the oldest piece of technology we're still using right now, centralized governments. So the fact that we're at a stage of coercive government manipulation and brainwashing, that we actually are willing to allow them to have custody of our children, and we're thankful because, oh, it's free daycare. We need to be better than that, people. We need to be smarter than that. We wouldn't need maids. We wouldn't need childcare. We wouldn't need to repair all the bad behaviors that happen and are learned in public school in the 5 minutes we have on the way home from work and school and daycare and karate class and this and that. If you had your time back, the shit that you learn in school, we all learned, that we all forgot, the math, the trigonometry, the American history, the books that we read in reading class that we don't remember the plots or the stories or the character lines or any of the reasoning why we learned them, a lot of that shit went in one ear out the other. If we weren't learning that, we would have been learning something else. Like, we would have been out there in the street just bashing our heads into a stop sign or a tree. We would have actually been learning karate, or we would have been learning to plant flowers in a garden. We would have been learning to speak. We would have been learning to communicate anyway. School isn't anything special. It's just a place where you're stuck. It felt like jail. If you remember back, to me it felt like jail, okay? We shouldn't be putting our kids there. We should be thankful for that, guys, all right? Look up the homeschooling laws in your state and see how many hoops you have to jump through if you want to take your kids out of public school, how much proof you have to give the government that you're doing the right things for your own flesh, blood, and DNA. Guys, please get behind me. Comment, like, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. I used to not say it, but get on my channel because I'm going to talk about it, and we need to talk about this stuff, man. We need to start making stuff happen. Enough of this freaking MAGA shit, enough of this freaking alt-left, alt-right bullshit. It's time for us to be a freaking people again and start being real. Magna Carta type shit, guys. Take it back. 1776. Let's go. Peace. How do I turn this off? How do I stop this damn thing? Oh, it's live, but I want to stop. Stop streaming.